What's good, everybody? Welcome to Whole Views. My name is Corey. Thank you for clicking the thumbnail. And today we're going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 2, asking ourselves the question, is this show anti-men? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't so far. Most of the people who watch the videos are unsubscribed. We've reached our original goal. We've set new goals for 2022. We would love and appreciate it if you would hit subscribe and come back and check out more videos, leave comments, and just be a part of the community that we are trying to grow here at Whole Views. Talking about episode 2, if you're asking the question, is this show an anti-male show? Like, is it focused on being extremely feminist? My initial answer would be no. I don't think it is. But I can understand how some people come to that conclusion, and we're going to talk about those things. First, let's just talk about what we liked and disliked from the episode. Starting with the likes, I really enjoyed the fourth wall breaks here. Not all of them, but the one in particular that I really enjoyed had to be the one in which she was on the phone, Jennifer was on the phone with Bruce, and they were talking about the Blonsky case and talking about the 2008 events of the Incredible Hulk. And I just love the fact that they talked about, or Bruce said the line, like, I'm a completely different person now, literally, and then they wink at the camera. I was like, oh man, I laughed out loud at that moment because it was so on the nose, and it was the one thing that the real MCU fans, longtime fans know, and we all wonder if it would ever be addressed. It was very cool how it was addressed and talked about here. There are other Easter eggs that people have spoiler channels that they talk about, the real things that you look hard and dissect, things that you can actually easily miss throughout the episode. And that was the Wolverine kind of cliff note, a little headline where a man with metal claws gets into a bar fight, and it's like, oh, that's probably Logan. Or whatever, the MCU's version of Wolverine. And then there's also mention of the Eternals with the huge statue in the ocean. It's like, they finally talked about the big Eternal emerging out of the earth. Like that should be a thing that is discussed. And I'm glad that they finally at least drop a line, on a website, while she was looking at a laptop. That was a cool, very cool little hidden gem in there. Talking about the things that I didn't necessarily like, I didn't like her introduction to the new law firm that she's going to. It was a clip that they actually released earlier the week, and she's kind of doing the fourth wall thing, talking about her bosses and talking about why they hired her for the job. And, we'll get into and dissect a little bit of that in a little bit, but I just didn't like, the direct talking to the camera in that moment. It's something about it didn't come across super well to me. And the only other real issue that I feel like I have with the show is I feel like it's edited weirdly. I do know immediately after episode 1 aired, Twitter kind of blew up with the courtroom fight scene. And in the moment, it went so fast that I didn't catch how badly it was edited. It was very weirdly edited, the courtroom scene in episode 1. Here, the one that I feel like the editing really stands out in the way that they dissect the clips and things like that is the conversation Jennifer was having with her father in the storage room or the shed or wherever they were, or the garage. And as they were going back and forth, each time the camera cut back to the dad, it really, really, really felt like a different take each time he said something. His body positioning was weird. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know why they did it like that. I felt like if they would have went back and forth between Bruce and Jennifer on the phone, when she kept cutting him off mid-conversation, I think it would have looked and came across the same way, but probably to save money and not have the good version of Smart Hulk on the screen as much. They just used the audio, which it played much better the second time around. The first time around with the dad and going back and forth between the two, it just felt like they shot some of the stuff on different days because things just felt a little different. But that's my only issue. I don't feel like the show is strongly anti-men. But let's get into those instances in which people say this show blatantly is attacking men or kind of devaluing men. So the first thing that I think of when I think about that whole line of thought is very early on in the episode where I think her friend Nikki is telling her to let's go in the bar, and they chanting She-Hulk, She-Hulk, and she's like, that's what they're calling me. And then Jennifer says a line, something like, I can't even exist without being a derivative of him. So to the person who's just looking at this thing on the surface, I very much understand how they could see that and say, oh, look, she's trying to say like she deserves to exist on her own, and not acknowledging her existence is largely due to Bruce Banner's Hulk. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but at the same time, you gotta think about the context of the MCU. Hulk was on the run for a large portion of his hero antics. He was not favored by the US government. He destroyed many of the things that he interacted with. Cities is what I'm talking about here. Jennifer, on the other hand, was a successful lawyer who had a practice and did well for herself. So the idea that now she's only identified as a derivative of the Hulk, the female version of the Hulk, is kind of insulting. Like, no, I've built a career. I've moved up to this place in my life. I would like to be more than just the female Hulk. And she's entitled to feel that way because it's kind of accurate. You know, she did more than just become Hulk one day. Like, she actually got a degree and went to school and passed the bar and practiced and moved up the ladder. And like, yeah, she was successful apart from being the Hulk. So just to be labeled as Girl Hulk, I guess I can see where that character is coming from in that moment. The other moment that people might look at and say, oh, you know, this is anti-men, is when she's walking through the office building and she's saying like, oh, these bozos never had to feel like this on their first day of work. And I'll say this about that. Show me a person who has never said anything negative about their bosses, and I will show you a person that I do not trust. I don't see any issue or take any issue with her kind of calling her bosses bozos and saying they didn't have it as hard as her, because to me, I think it's true, it's very true that those older gentlemen probably didn't have to deal with the things that she dealt with, as well as saying like, yeah, as an employee and a person who's been an employee, like, we don't all love our bosses. So I'm fine with her taking that position. I think a lot of times when we come to this anti-men discussion, people read a bit too much into it. And yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it, because the episode was fine. There's so much more to be thinking about and talking about and discussing than is an anti-men. I think specifically to the fact that they dropped a hint of Wolverine, the fact that they dropped a hint of the Eternals, the fact that Hulk is on a Sicarian ship headed out into space. There's so much that could be going on with that storyline, and I'm sure that this show will pay it off. The fact that we have Emil Blonsky, who seems contrite enough, and then they also tie in Shang-Chi with Blonsky, him being the Abomination, and the fact that they're really setting up Thunderbolts here. It's like, man. And all y'all, well, not all y'all, but all some people can think about is, this is against men. I just don't feel that way. I see the reason for them doing everything they're doing, and I'm fine with it. I like the show. I think it's pretty funny. I wish that the CG did look a little bit better, because there was, to me at least, there was a drop off between episodes 1 and episodes 2, slight drop off in her character model. But aside from, you know, those little things, a little CG here and there, and a little bit of editing flubs, maybe it's on purpose, I'm pretty fine with the show, man. I'm pretty fine with the show. I think it's a good show. Let me know what you guys think. If y'all think I'm totally wrong and it's anti-men and this, you know, it's a hit piece and it's the MCU now, like, I just don't feel that way. I feel like the show is good, you know. Let me know your thoughts though in the comment section. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, go watch something good.